Hello and welcome back to Tracking Trends. Today we are going to be talking about the India AI Impact Summit that has seen an impressive congregation of global leaders, tech CEOs, policymakers, and AI researchers and scientists from across the world. More than a dozen heads of states, including the presidents of Brazil and France, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, Sam Altman of the OpenAI have been among the attendees. The event has been showcased as a platform for inclusive, responsible, and democratized AI. How AI can be leveraged to yield benefits for citizens across the society, especially in areas like healthcare, education, and agriculture. The idea, or rather the aim, was how to make India a future hub for scalable, cost effective AI solutions. These are the aspirations that were manifested in this summit and that made headlines. Yet, beneath them, there is a more complex terrain, that of structural impediments, geopolitics, systemic underpreparedness, and unresolved governance questions. Srinath is a Mumbai based corporate advisor, researcher. Welcome back, Srinath, to our show.
Thank you,
Uh,
Rajesh.
so, we have seen the optics, we have heard the rhetorics. Where lies the reality? What's the hard truth?
See, I think as with any geopolitical ambition, I think India has put its best foot forward. But as we were discussing earlier, even in G20, India did that. We almost whitewashed and white vinyled our cities into beautification, and nothing has changed for the citizens. Similarly, a AI summit of this size, two ways to look at it. One, we are proclaiming that we are also in the global AI race, but do we really have substance and substance at scale? To make the world pay for the goods and services and the products that we will produce. If the world is not going to pay for it, it is only a internal demonstration and to say that we are self-sufficient and all of that. The reality is, in today's technological world, you cannot be inward-looking. We are not, let's say, a cocoon island to say we have everything that we want when we produce everything we want. The second one narrative is the tougher one. Let's move from geopolitical to geotechnological. In today's, I think, the world, fragmented world order, the reality is how are we going to partner? And I'm using the word partner very kindly because you might sign all the declarations. In the previous four AI summits, there have been enough declarations, proclamations. I mean, if I want to be a little cheeky, done. And if you remember in the French summit, US and UK even did not even agree to sign the declaration. So what does it really mean? You can sign all that you want, and I will go back home and I will want supremacy, AI supremacy, to rule the world in 21st century. I think that is how I look at AI. It is a very, very deeply disruptive one because it touches the core of what does human being mean anymore. And that's a reality. While of course there are lots of positives, healthcare and all of that, but you don't make rules for good things. You make rules for how do we stop disasters and mishaps and the bad things.
So, Srinath, let's take go step by step. The first and foremost thing which you talked about, uh, there is an organization that does global AI ranking. It's called Tortoise, and I was just looking at them. India has remained at the 10th position for the last 5 years, and we make it to the top 10. They rank on the basis of various parameters: talent, infrastructure, ecosystem, operational environment, government strategy, commercialization, all of that. Now we rank very high because of only one thing, that is talent. That takes us to it props up our ranking. But if we look at everything else, we really lag behind a lot of countries. Now, the one area where we are ranked 68, it's AI infrastructure. So let's start with AI infrastructure. We have been talking about where do really we stand vis-a-vis AI infrastructure.
See, I think rankings aside, the reality is today the easiest way to ask honestly is if you go and talk to any AI startup in India and ask them what are your challenges and what can we solve. It is not only about buying GPUs and offering it to them. It is right from, for example, AI labs would need a lot of power. They would, and if you have having going to have data centers, you're going to need a lot of water. Then the ease of doing business, of course, obviously, while our ranking has improved, the question to ask the entrepreneurs is, has it really? And I think that's a big question mark. Coming back to AI, you need access to a lot of data sets if you're going to test them. And where do we have data sets? The reality is we don't have much of data sets and we have to create. The last, but not the, but probably the most important one is, can we generate tokens? The reality is, if you're going to create LLMs, you need tokens, and
Yeah.
tokens are expensive. So when we say infra, we generally think of Zameen de denge, we will give power, we will do all of that fanfare, but there is a lot that goes from the technological side. And which is why you also see a lot of Indian AI startups actually saying, you know what, it's far easier for me to go and operate elsewhere because the other point, I might get infrastructure, I will also get capital, access to capital, and I will be in the market that I want to serve because I can also commercialize this. Because end of the day, why are you doing it? You're not doing it for charity. And the reality is, uh, if you want to commercialize, you have to be in the midst of what the customers want. There is a cultural nuance to everything. Have you ever kind of questioned, Rajesh, why is it that we are not able to make something in India that sells around the world? Of course, there are some interesting SaaS brands which have done some decent work and are increasing scale. But 45 years ago, we had Microsoft conquering the world and it still rules it. Why isn't that big techs come from there? It is about infrastructure. Infrastructure also has a softer side to it, which means ability to have intellectual property created, working with academia, working with research labs, and that's something that we don't have. If you look at the West Coast, there's equal access to capital, human capital, and a lot of research and IP creation. Unless we do that, how do we monetize it? So to me, infra is a big challenge. To me, also, if I look at it, talent is also a challenge, Rajesh. We seem
So
to confuse
we,
population with
we,
talent.
we will go there a little later. Let's just get the infra piece done. Now, in infra, we heard at the AI summit a lot of promises and a lot of announcements. The Adani Group said we are committing $100 billion investment to build data centers, which they said will be part of our larger energy data ecosystem on which we are investing $250 billion. $100 billion today means, I think, 90,000, 9 lakh
9 lakh.
crore rupees. 9 lakh crore rupees. So, not to be left behind, the Ambanis announced that we will invest 10 lakh crore rupees. Then we heard Sam Altman making an announcement of a collaboration with TCS to build a data center. Now, the question is, these data centers that is now being, as part of India US deal also it was, what do these data center do? Do they serve our interest? Do they do things for India? Is there a sovereignty angle there, or do they do things for others?
So, I mean, if I can be a little naughty here, data centers are real estate which are covered under the regulatory ambit. So it's no different from you put up a large SEZ in the olden days and you housed 50,000 people working at your BPO, KPO, or back office, so to speak. But the reality was it is real estate. In the AI world or the chip world, if I can call it, you need a lot of processing power, which is going to guzzle water and electricity, and we don't know how we are going to solve for that. I
Yeah.
hope you also ask these companies what are they doing so that it is sustainable. But we also have seen that in the regulatory space, let's say if you want to serve BFSI clients, you cannot have data residing outside of India. So it will reside here. But the reality is the software or the brain behind operating that is going to be owned by a Western model. and they're going to
Correct.
make money on it. So, which is why I call it real. It is no different from real estate to tick mark the regulatory conditions. That's about it. It is not the brain of entire AI there, and that's the concern. So, we are solving in the name of data sovereignty. It's only data sovereignty. It is not technological sovereignty. The data might reside here, but their software is going to become far more efficient because it's going to do a lot of churning analysis to pick up what is the data set and how Indians behave, consume, everything about us. It is no different from if you're on
Let me
Amazon.
ask you. Let me ask you a dumb question. Your data center may reside here, but data is stored on software that is owned by a company in the US or UK, wherever. Does that then amount to data sovereignty?
It cannot. But the reality is, if you have seen what Zoho has launched in terms of cloud, its own cloud, and I'm hoping that tomorrow Geo will also announce that they want to build a cloud facility. These are possibilities. The reality is, if it has taken the Indian bureaucracy probably 25 years after email was created to move to finally an Indian server, we have a long way to catch up in terms of understanding what does sovereignty mean. Even today, I'm sure you have friends in the bureaucracy who are using their Gmail and not their official ID to send you something, right? We all have such friends. So the reality is, I think we still have, while we are principally talking about sovereignty, sovereignty is how is our data used. For example, health data. If I were to allude to, let's say, our public health data, it is a sovereign data. Because if, let's say, an enemy state kind of gets access to how do our influential elites' health be, it can be compromised. It can be used against us or them. So anything that we do, whatever we do, our banking data, our insurance data, so on and so forth. But the
Why,
reality is today,
why why do we talk about only elites' health? I mean, today all of our data they rest on a platform of Google or Meta or Microsoft. Uh, Even our general public's health data. If an American company has an access, uh, they are better off in developing medicines
oh,
to
absolutely.
cater to. So that's they can kill your own companies because they have better
So
information about your healthcare system.
so absolutely, Rajesh, it's a very valid point, and so which is why we will have to see this as three layer, right? I'm talking about the top layer, which is the federal law regulation, federal law that comes up, and then you have a layer in between the individuals. There is a layer of regulatory system. Let's say healthcare data or health insurance data. It's supposed to be guarded like the golden egg, so to speak. But you and I know how much of data is easily available for a song, and
Yeah,
and let's not even change the consumer narrative. Most of us would also give away our data for as little as ₹5. The moment we say, "Oh, you can redeem a coupon, scratch card here on a website," we'll give our phone number, we'll give our email ID, and all of that. So there is a two-way street that we need to do today. At this point in time, are our regulatory framework, our regulators understanding data sovereignty? In general, I feel no, but for few, like probably RBI was very serious about it. SEBI, because the capital market is run by them, supervised by them. But most of the other regulators don't seem to understand the severity of data sovereignty, let alone forget alone sovereignty. I mean, my worry is a lot of these will become hashtags and memes and
yeah.
corporate presentations rather than the seriousness of what does it mean.
So, how do we then tackle this issue or address this issue of data sovereignty? I mean, yesterday I was at a session being addressed by Nikesh Arora, and he was giving the example of China that 20 years ago China figured this out. They realized the importance of protecting their data, and we have built all this great digital public infrastructure, Aadhaar, UPI system, but we haven't created any system to protect the data that is now floating around. And with AI, the speed of extracting data just gets escalated phenomenally.
See, that's
So how?
true. Let's take.
Yeah,
So I want to give instead of Aadhaar and all that, they're far more complex and larger at scale, but even a smaller subset of data. Let's say DigiYatra. The number of passengers transiting Indian airports who use DigiYatra regularly is far lower than the Aadhaar numbers. But do we even know who owns it and where is it reside and how is the controls and what is the privacy regulation? I don't
no,
know. As a
we have
user, I don't know.
we have had a huge controversy over it, and yet we did not get a satisfactory response from any section of the government.
Correct. So the reality is today, one way to look at it is, oh, we have outsourced it to private sector, and how is my data safe, and where does it keep, and what do we do, and how can it be not weaponized against the citizens? Because I can create a reverse image of your photo and my photo from that, and what if it is used for in creating fake documents and so on and so forth? Because it has got you're linking your Aadhaar or PAN to it, and so on and so forth. So unless we take some of these very, very seriously, a lot of our conversations will happen only in conferences that we want to show off. But does it mean any change in the narrative for the citizen? Not really. And now I probably should even cheekily say that I think in the screen titling, let's change your name to Rajesh.ai and my name to Srinath.ai. I mean, I think we might get better valuation to what we speak. That's a sad part. Everybody and their uncle and grandfather is actually talking about AI. See, the last 10 years, corporate India and also the public service India has moved from first it was strategy, then ESG became very big, DEI became very big. Everybody said climate change, sustainability. And AI, I think thanks to the chat GPT becoming a household name 2.5 years ago, everybody wants to suddenly claim that AI is the biggest thing in their life after Parata. But AI has been in development for the last 70 years. So the real challenge is, do we have deep sense of excellence, institutional excellence? No. Very few are doing it. Whereas if you look at China and US, between them, they have about 164 centers of excellence who are doing deep research on AI. And how many do here? And I think that's the narrative. My concern is that, and we'll have to start from the grassroots level. That suddenly at the university level, you don't have great scientists getting developed unless we do it from the school level. It has to be a
What's
huge ecosystem.
lacking there? I mean, we had this very embarrassing situation with the Galgotias uh, showcasing a Chinese Robodog as their product. They changed the version later on, but they did. They were trying to pass it off as their product. But and they
So
claim that 350 crore that they are investing in AI. I mean, are they just claims, or is it something really happening? Because at this summit, we did not see any Indian AI breakthrough in the real sense getting showcased. I mean, if you set aside Sarvam AI and the Bharat Gen initiative by IIT, uh, there was nothing. There was no major AI breakthrough that could be showcased.
yeah, that's true. I mean, Sarvam was a good moment of reality for India that it is able to do frugal. But if you also see the founders' interview subsequently, he said one of the things that they still are trying to access is capital.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that well-meaning tech capitalists actually fund that business and take it ahead. But let's go back a step back. Something like a Robodog. Are people actually putting 200 crores and 300 crores? Quite a few family offices are investing. But Rajesh, I must also bring your attention to a media report. I think it was in Economic Times a couple of days ago or a week ago, which spoke about Indian HNIs and UHNI family offices are actually investing in AI startups globally, not in India.
Not in India.
Because you still have to commercialize, right? If I put in money, I need to be able to commercialize. And it is not a foreign tag fixation at all. It is the ability of the ecosystem to say, I will nurture you, I will scale you, I'm okay with failure. As a market, in the last 10 years of startups, we are slowly coming out of that failure mindset that we don't fail. It is okay to fail. And also the step back. To me, the Robodog incident is also a narrative that if the governments can get away whitewashing vinyl boards and to claim what we don't have, a private sector can also get away. And it is no different from what we have done to our education system in the last 40, 50 years. We have a huge private sector. Why private sector? Even the government colleges. Does anybody know the quality of education? None. We have been opening colleges and after colleges. And most of them are rent seeking, right? Literally parents beg, borrow money to pay for education, the quality with the hope that they will get a job. So tough questions. Who is going to answer them?
I would like to keep the education bit for a separate podcast. Uh, I want you said something very interesting. I mean, in recent times, we are seeing the net foreign direct investment into India has been going down. In fact, in some months, it has turned negative. And one of the reasons, apart from the withdrawal or repatriation by foreign investors, the Indians investing abroad has been steadily rising. And now you're telling me a lot of HNIs uh, are actually investing in AI startups overseas, not here. You advise, as part of your job, you advise a lot of HNIs and family businesses on succession planning, uh, business restructuring. What's the kind of sentiment you get to see there about the promise of AI within India? Are they
See, in India,
excited?
so it's actually two sides of the same coin and kind of contradictory and complementary. The Indian families, including let's say those who have interest in manufacturing, very well know if they bring those technologies to their own factories, they will have to literally throw out probably even 90% of the staff. And it's a very touchy social and political conundrum that they cannot, and they don't want to even think about it. I mean, the reality is today a large automobile car manufacturing factory, Rajesh, can be replaced probably with three supervisors who can operate almost everything using Internet of Things and commercially available equipment. And the reality is, it's a huge political and social cost that they need to do. So, whereas the same promoter families are saying, you know what, in India, I may not be able to do it very quickly because everything is a sunk cost for me. But abroad, when I'm going to own a chunk of these companies or technologies, I will even make better returns on some of those investments. So they're not necessarily investing in those as a strategic measure to bring them to their companies. No, it is saying it's a pure financial return. Can I have a share of pie in that? It is no
Yeah,
different from if you look at about 10 to 7 years ago, a lot of the initial set of HNIs who started setting up family offices in Singapore, Dubai, London, different tax horizons also, were investing in, if you remember, the FANG stocks,
right.
the Facebook, Apples of the world. And they were the first one to realize I need to go global, not because I want to bring it to my company, but can I make a better return on that?
Mhm.
And I want to now bring that analogy to the conversation that we had a month ago after the budget. Why is private capex not coming in? When India is rising and the corporate India is far more profitable in the last 7, 8 years, why is their private capex not coming in? A lot of them, and if you notice, I think last year alone in the stock market, the Indian promoters cashed out about 1.7 lakh crores worth of stocks that they held. So they're monetizing their stocks. So all of this is going abroad in different shape and form, and private capex is not coming in. So that's a larger question we need to ask: is do they know something? Are they sniffing something more? And is it a political narrative that they're not buying in? Because they have the money, they are the capitalist. And I think that's a larger question we should ask.
So they are making us bet on their businesses here, but they are betting with their money on businesses overseas.
In a sense, yes, because a lot of them are also getting the P's to put money in their businesses and they're cashing out. And they're
Hmm.
using that money to diversify what I would call as geographic risk. They're not keeping everything only in India.
So, if I'm hearing you right, that means if we have to bridge this gap between hype and reality, symbolism and real action vis-a-vis AI, I don't get a sense listening to you that the private sector will actually uh, bear the will do its bit. I mean, it has to be with the government, it has to be with the state, right? If we wait for private sector to step in and do this, I think we have already missed the AI bus. God knows what else we will miss in the future. So if that means the government has to have a big commanding role in this, what are the top priorities at this point in time the government should be pursuing?
The reality is that there is a lot of domestic funds, but the domestic funds will not bring in money to the table unless you give them an incentive to do it. Simple thumb rule, Rajesh, if you look just around you in NCR, I'm sure in your own circle, you would know at least 50 to 100 families who have a net worth of 500 crore plus. And I'm not even keeping a higher number, just 500
Yeah.
crore plus business families. So my estimate in India is at least there should be about 7 to 8,000 families who have 500 crores plus net worth. And if you go and tell them, hey, I'm going to create something like a technological bond, so to speak, and I'm going to give you a tax efficient vehicle, put it through Gift City or whatever, it's almost no different from a hybrid finance. Government steps in and says, I put in the first seed capital as a risk capital. If it blows up, it's okay. I can write it off as a sovereign. No different from what China has done in AI for the last so many years, but much different at scale. China has invested about $220 billion in the last 8 years in AI. Of course, across the government institutions and various banks and all of that they own. I mean, no wonder.
You're saying the Chinese government has invested $220 billion.
Correct, in the last 8 years. And so in India, it's almost like,
30, that's like almost 30 lakh crore.
yeah. So
And
if you have,
and and the last major announcement we made about a year and a half ago for AI was 10,000 crore.
so that's
Even
true.
that
And our quantum mission is about 6,000 odd crores for 7 years. So,
7 years.
yeah. So the
And
reality is
what's the time frame in which China spent this 30 lakh crore?
8 years. 8 years.
8 years. 8 years,
8 years.
30 lakh crores, and our quantum mission 6,000 crore over 7 years. Okay,
Correct.
there you.
So it's not even just a number. Of course, the large capital is needed. Of course, the critics who are watching this will argue, oh, we are all a jugaad economy and a frugal innovation economy. But the reality is, in some of these, you cannot be frugal. Jugaad is not innovation. Jugaad is a temporary quick fix. That's about it. If you
Absolutely.
want frontier technology to be, if you want to be in control of that, you need to invest time, money, and capital. That's a reality. So coming back to this analogy, why not the government look at investing something at scale and saying, I'm going to chip in 20,000 crore as a first fund, and then I'm going to invite almost like a AI fund, so to speak. We will open it to Indian family offices as well as NRIs to say that you can invest in it, but keep a little higher threshold, 5 crores or whatever. AIF has 1 crore, but keep a little larger ticket size. And but give them a tax incentive and give them almost equivalent to an infra bond and, or an agri investment. And if you don't give them that investment, this money is anyway going abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think this is only one of the many ideas which are potentially possible. But you need to think this out of the box to say, what do those family entrepreneurs like? Why are they going abroad? They're going abroad because they like that freedom, they like that independence. Just because they invested, they're not going to get a call from the tax authority saying, "What did you do this? What did you do that?" They're not going to get a call from the local politician asking for some electoral funding. None of those. So I think we also have to figure out how do we actually develop trust in the family offices who are flush with funds, but are kind of risk averse to saying, do I really need to take this trouble or do I go elsewhere?
I mean, I would look at what happened at the AI summit. Uh, do you think that really kind of give anybody any confidence? I mean, I'll tell you two things. One is that, look, it was quite disorganized. It was, we are talking of inclusive AI. We made it highly exclusive. Uh, you know, people, the keynote addresses, people would have liked to come and listen to these tech leaders. All the keynote sessions were by invitation. And the kind of people who got invited to these sessions, many of the small startups and all, they said, look, we don't have an ROI on our, the money that we have spent to put up our stalls here, because the crowd that is coming, this is not the crowd we wanted. I mean, there is so much of red tapeism still, and there is so much of what you call it. Most of the time, we are so preoccupied with optics rather than the real things. Do you think these family offices, even if the government comes up with a fund, do you think these family businesses, family offices would have the confidence that, one, that it will be hassle free to join this fund? Two, even if you have to fund, you will have credible, reliable startups or breakthroughs coming from our industry. Both these
So,
things, there are two big question marks.
so very fair question. And let me give you an analogy of a couple of states in India. I mean, look at the Tamil Nadu startup fund. They administer it. It's headed by an IAS officer, but the advisory board are all well accomplished people, including younger startup founders who have built a company, sold it, or who are running under incubation. The reality is they're bringing that expertise to the model. But the unlike the usual non-dilutive grants which happen, it cannot be seen as a political dispensation giving a freebie or a benefit. It has to be
Correct.
run very commercially. So, which means you need real mindset change in that. And there are successful models. Look at all the lot of incubators, both private and universities, which run incubator model. They create fund. IIT Mumbai, IMA Ventures, for example, very professional, very lean and mean team. Processes run. They raise a pool of corpus from their own alumni and markets, and they deploy it in others. So there are enough models which India has, but where is that will? And where is that time? You need to say, I'm going to put my head down and this is what I'm going to do over the next 5 to 8 years. No hype, no hoopla, nothing. Unless we can step back from that. 10 years ago, we kept on saying EM meant emerging markets. Now EM seems to be event management. And we'll have to move away from all of that. And I think the sad part is the startup founders who were denied access to their own stall, or who couldn't hear the father of AI, so to speak. What's the point in doing it? So of course we will also might get a pushback from the official side saying that, oh, we did not expect so much crowd and all of that. To me, it is very simple. How do we put our head down? How do we actually build something? Let's not worry about what we have not done. It might take us the next 10 to 15 years. The reality is that. But can we not given? And here I want to touch upon in a slightly geopolitical angle, Rajesh. As we sign the US trade, the what we have is an interim trade arrangement now, framework now. As we sign the actual trade pact, I hope no, we are not going to give away the technological sovereignty or give access to big techs to India, let's say in the financial services or healthcare and so on and so forth. And to me, all this conversation of AI and those are equally linked, because once you give in, there's no going back. It's no different from they've already planted a Trojan horse, so to speak. So it is a bit too late for our Indian conglomerates to say that, hey, I'm also going to invest money in this. You're only going to own the real estate. But what about the IP? What about the thinking? What about the products that you can sell it to the world? Sad that we still don't are not hearing the product nation ideology so far.
Right. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important point that you brought up. The India US deal that also raises a lot of concerns which have not been talked about enough. And I think, if I take away, uh, it doesn't matter what we haven't done. What's going to matter, what we can do and what we ought to do. Uh, we should get down to doing, put our head down and get down to doing rather than talking.
Correct.
Thank you
Correct.
very much.
Thank you, Raj.